Hey guys, welcome to the Podtendo podcast. We spend about the first 5-10 minutes talking on a random topic, kind of going over stuff like that. If you want to get to the show proper, skip ahead. There'll be a sound cue, probably an old commercial, or just sounds from the game, and then you can get the show proper. I don't know why you would listen to this podcast if you didn't like the first 5 to 10 minutes. So, but like maybe there's someone out there, maybe you're a brand new listener, and I don't know. Like, why would you listen to this podcast if it wasn't for the first part?
Yeah, well, I don't know. Some people maybe just like listening to how we break down the level notes. Who knows? We might be good at it. I like to think that we put a lot of effort into it, or your notes are really quite good. So I don't know. Not sure.
I don't know. I mean, sometimes I know I'll go back and I'm actually going back and listening to a bunch of old episodes that we have done. And sometimes I'm like, oh, this topic. Yeah, I don't really care much for this topic. And we'll skip ahead. So, I mean, I guess if it's a re-listen, it is actually kind of useful.
True.
Because sometimes our unstructured, like once you've heard one of our rants or like our conversations, you're like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Especially sometimes our opinions are kind of obnoxious on certain topics.
I listened to Star Tropics this morning. Man, we say absolutely a lot. Like, that's definitely one of those things that we've kicked like an old habit. Like, man, I don't know if we were doing it as a joke or because I don't think older episodes we say it that much. It's bizarre. I don't know why that. Maybe we're just more comfortable with talking. We're better at like bouncing, and it's very strange.
Yeah, it was definitely a crutch. I have my 3 bad ones. Absolutely like and 3 things
basically is also.
Yeah, basically.
Basically is also one, yeah. Ever listen to someone speak and they say basically a lot? I don't know, it just seems, yeah.
Whatever, it is what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah, I'm getting more reliant on like an like, but I'm like, it's such an indistinct sound, I'm always like, I'll just leave that for now. It's not very fast, so I mean, if that annoyed you, sorry. But that's not what I wanted to talk about at the top of today's show, other than the fact I'm going back and listening to older episodes. I do think some of them hold up and have some fairly good value. And actually some of them like fly by. I've probably listened to Donkey Kong about 3 times. I think that's a really easy, succinct level. We will bring up Donkey Kong again. So if you have not listened to Donkey Kong, I recommend go back, listen to that show. Come join us in the future. Because one of the things we're talking, well, actually, we'll get into the show. First thing I wanted to touch on, and I've wanted to touch on this for a while, and we've behaved ourselves and we haven't talked movies. Today we're going to talk movies. We have 7 minutes. At the 10-minute mark, conversation stops. We move on to the game. Agreed?
Agreed.
All right. So the first movie I want to talk about. This movie came out earlier this summer. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I love this movie. I've watched it once in theaters, twice at home. Every time it evokes emotions. I have a good time. I have fun. It is excellent. I think the themes of the movie are magnificent. It's all about family. It's all about parentage. So every scene has something to do with that theme. It's very well done. They just don't throw in cheap jokes or something like that. Every scene has to do with parenting. It's great. How do you feel about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2?
I have watched it multiple times, and I really dislike it.
How come?
It's painfully boring. I don't feel that they go anywhere.
Well, they don't.
They don't. It's no characters really get any sort of development. If anything, everybody kind of takes a step back to literally get back to where they were at the end of the first one. There's a couple exceptions, like I think Batista Drax is hilarious and he's the strongest part of that movie, but every time he's not cracking jokes, I'm bored to tears. I've tried to watch that definitely twice, and it's just me and the girlfriend, we both kind of agree on it. It's like, I just don't get this movie and why it's super popular, and I get it's a major franchise and it has its points, and I've heard why you love it. I can't do it. I can't watch it. It's so blech, just boring.
My only rebuttal to that is I think they take Peter back, so Star-Lord's character, back a step. But he's just basically immature. He's kind of more of the kid and it's more about his relationship with his father. He grows in that sense. Nebula and what Gamora's relationship as a family changes, and they changes that relationship. Rocket goes from a jerk to understanding he's a jerk and how it affects others. Drax is the only character who stays the same the whole movie. So
and
your
he's
argument,
hilarious for it.
Your argument, you don't like character development. Maybe you don't like character development.
I just think that every character just gets amped up on the annoying scale to like max.
Yeah,
and then they just crank
problems.
it back as throughout the movie, and you're like, that's not really character development. They're still the same. At the end of Guardians of the Galaxy 1, Peter was kind of fell into that leadership role, and at the beginning of it, it's just like him and Rocket are fighting while they're flying around, and it's just like, this is so shitty. It's like you literally took what clearly was like everybody sees him make a pretty big sacrifice and kind of give him the leadership role, only for Rocket to be like, bah, I'm gonna be a jerk right now for the sake of plot. And you're like, this makes no sense. It's like Guardians of the Galaxy 1 didn't happen.
No, but at the end of Guardians 1, he defeats Ronan by dancing and singing. So he didn't take a leadership role. He was just being an immature jerk.
No, but he was the one that basically was sacrificing himself. That, I think, is what leaders do, is they sacrifice themselves for the team.
He didn't distract. He was just he was distracting him, dummy. That's the line.
It was just so bad.
All right, so Tyson doesn't like it. Tyson doesn't like popular stuff. Just remember that, guys.
Yeah, that's.
Mick, on the other hand, might be biggest Guardians fanboy out there. It was great. I cry every time I watch that movie. It's very touching, you know.
How is there any emotion in that movie? No, nothing's at stake.
Yeah, but that's the point. It's great because it's like Empire. Nothing happens. They don't do anything. It's a character story. It's a character study. There's no plot. There's no exciting incident. It's just a character study. Here's these characters. Here's how they interact. Here's a little side adventure they go on. Doesn't really do anything to the overall Marvel plot. It's just what are these guys up to? Versus, I feel like lots of Marvel movies, they try and move the plot forward, you know, and they try and they're like, oh, look at this Infinity Stone. We should talk about this Infinity Stone. And oh no, Natalie Portman's infected with the red Infinity Stone.
Yeah, well, I have strong opinions on the negative side for a lot of the Marvel movies and most superhero movies in general. Like, everybody is a big fan of Deadpool, and I checked my watch every 15 minutes and was like, we're still on the bridge. It's an hour into this movie. We started on the bridge. I get that there's a flashback, but we're still on this bridge. And it was just, or not the bridge, the highway. It was just so painful to get through. And everybody loved that movie. Oh, so good, so funny. Like, I didn't laugh at any of the jokes. I didn't see how this was even remotely entertaining. I don't get it. I understand that, you know, the average viewer can just kind of turn their brain off, but cynical me and critical me just sits there and is like, that's dumb. Why is that a thing? And that was my experience for like almost every single one, like most superhero movies. Most. There's a few exceptions, and I think Guardians of the Galaxy 1 kind of nailed it by making it both being fun and just exploring this universe and just kind of getting lost in it and finding all the nooks and crannies and how, like, you know, the pirates run and how the smugglers run and how the, like, police are. It's like, that's it. That's entertaining. But number two, it's like, sweet, let's take all the fun out of this and just drag this into the dirt and make it, as you say, a character study. I just think it's like them treading water for 2 hours to be like, okay, now we're setting up for that next one. It's like, this doesn't need to be this. You could have done something. You could have made an impact with this movie, and you decided to tread water. So that's my cynical opinion, and I'm kind of a jerk.
And that's the 10-minute mark. And the other movie we were going to talk about, Stephen King's It, will not be talked about on this show. So, well, good thing it'll be a couple months before we talk about another movie.
Sorry.
All right, on to today's show.
When is too much too much? To find out, we crammed everything into Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island. 60 more levels, massive enemies, huge Yoshi tricks, all served up with the latest graphic technology, Morphmation.
No more.
Sure you don't have room for another little bonus level? Super Mario World 2, only on the Super NES. Still the big one.
Welcome to the Podtendo podcast, where we analyze, reminisce, and replay the glory of old Nintendo games. We can be contacted on Twitter at Podtendo Podcast, email us at podtendo@gmail.com, or check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Podtendo. I'm your co-host, the not zombie Mick or whatever I was last time. I'm going to have a new patent pending. I'm patent pending Mick, and I'm joined every episode by my co-host,
Chancellor Tyson, but I'm not a scarecrow this week.
Nice. All right, well, everyone, welcome to the month of Mario. Last year we did 3 Mario games. I feel like we did 3 episodes. We did the movie, the game, and Mario RPG.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, technically we did 4 because Mario RPG had 2 parts to it.
Yeah, I feel like we started Mario RPG in like August or something, but it was obviously taking us a while to chip through it, so we kind of put it off or something. Or maybe we took a break for Halloween. I think that's what happened. We took a break for Resident Evil, the movie, or something like that.
Yeah, I think you're right on that one. I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to look at our release dates, but I think you're pretty right on that one.
The only reason I'm remembering that is because I literally spent till 11:30 the night before we recorded Mario RPG Part 2 beating that game.
Yeah, and I finished up, I think, just a week before you did, and I just dropped all studying and was like, Kate, this is my life right now.
Yeah.
And I got my way through it.
Yeah.
But that's most RPGs, is they are big time things. Which is half the fun.
And before we start the show, I want to give a big shout out to the Retro RPG Show, fellow podcasters. They're found on Twitter. They just did us a big favor, and they tweeted our poll that we had a couple months or weeks ago now, just about what game we're going to play in December. We're not going to reveal that information just yet, not because the poll's still running and the results might change, but they gave us a big boost. We did a pretty successful poll last Christmas, and then we did 2 subsequent polls that had 7 votes in total over 2 polls. So those guys were a big help. If you guys are listening, thank you.
Many thanks.
And if you haven't listened and you like kind of more retro-y shows, go check those guys out too. They're a good time.
Yeah, and they have a huge archive of stuff, so you'll find at least a game or 2 that you're interested in, so definitely worth a check out.
Oh yeah. So today we're looking at, it's not technically a Super Nintendo Classic Edition series. I don't know if we'll do those again or if I'll rebrand them that, maybe. I think I just ended up knocking that off the title of those old shows anyways. But we're going to be looking at a game that can be found on the SNES Classic. Now that we're both owners of the SNES Classic, it's a good time, you know?
Yes, and thanks to you for tracking one down for me.
Yeah, stupid scalpers. Goddamn scalpers.
So if Nintendo released more than just like 6 consoles per, store, and that's it for the run. It's like, shouldn't this have been like 25 per store? But, Nintendo, they fear holding onto inventory.
They got close to that, because the store I went to, when I showed up to buy what did they say? They said they had 35. They were expecting closer to 70, but they only had 35. So they turned away a bunch of people. When I showed up later, they got another box of 35 in. So, and that was just a little EB Games in a mall. So, which is better than, they're like, we saw 5 NES classics last year, and I was like, all right.
Yeah, well, I think that Nintendo has a really big issue with hardware, and they worry about it because they did get burned on the Wii U and just like literally had to just recall them and then just basically get rid of them.
Really?
Yeah, that was apparently, if you went around the time that the Switch was coming out, everyone was basically like, yeah, we had to send back our stock of 50 that was sitting here. And they're like, yeah, that makes sense. And I think if the Wii U was a better seller, we would have got more mini NES or Super Nintendos. However, it's just also weird. It's like, if you guys gonna do a console release, do it over a couple like months, like so 6 months. People keep getting shipments.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do just kind of a limited run, just be like 6 months. We'll run until like after Christmas for like actually people getting them. And then as, sales start to slow down, maybe you release them less and less and less. But they're like, nope, we made 5 million, we shipped them out, that's all we got until 2018. And we basically had to, and people harassed Nintendo. That's the only reason why we're getting more of them in 2018, because no one knew it was going to be a limited release. Like, you get it that first week and that's all the shipments. So I don't get that. Like, that makes no sense to me. It's like, why wouldn't you just keep producing these? It's not hard. You obviously have the infrastructure to do it. Why are you just sitting on them?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Their model is interesting. But anyways, today's game that we're looking at is Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island. I'm going to call this game Yoshi's Island from now on.
Yeah, me too.
The date this game came out was October 4th, 1995. How Long to Beat has this game at 8 to 10 hours. Actual retail price was $59.99. If we factor in inflation, that's $89 today. It's weird, it always kind of rounds out to like $89 today. Sometimes I wonder if I actually do that or just write $89. eBay price, you can get a copy of this game from $12 to about $80 for inbox complete set. eShop prices, it's $8 on the Wii, $10 on the Wii U. And there is also a Super Mario Advanced 3 version of this for the Game Boy Advance. So depending on the version that you get, the prices may vary. Also, I guess this is a development detail, but I will include it in these parts of the notes. This game was included in the Super NES Classic Edition. This is the first time this game has been re-released in HD, since all the other digital copies were of the Game Boy Advanced version. So it's interesting. I'm pretty sure I own the Game Boy Advanced version of this game.
Yeah, I definitely bought it when it came out. But as a stupid young kid, I definitely got rid of all my Game Boy Advance stuff, and I'm kicking myself for it.
Yeah, well, no, I think I rebought it because I found this guy on eBay that was like, it was like $10 for 2 Game Boy Advance games, and I got Fire Red and Leaf Green and Final Fantasies like 6, 4, and 5 or something, whatever were released on the Game Boy Advance. Like, I have a really good Game Boy Advance collection.
Yeah, I was looking at that last time I was out in BC.
Yeah. Be jealous. So, the development details of this fine title. Mario creator Shigeru Miyamoto worked on Super Mario World. He thought to make Yoshi the series' next hero, since the game designers did not like other Yoshi games, including Safari and Yoshi Cookie. He thought he could make a more experience that was more authentic. When he first brought the game to Nintendo's marketing, they declined the game for having a Mario-style graphics rather than Vogue computer pre-rendered graphics like Donkey Kong Country. In comparison, they felt that the game lacked the power to impress. Incensed and opposed by the style, Miyamoto insisted further escalated his cartoonish vision in the hand-drawn cartoon style. Miyamoto allegedly said that Donkey Kong Country proves that players will put up with mediocre gameplay as long as the art is good. So, suck it, Donkey Kong Country.
That's a very opinionated thing for him to say.
Yep.
And that's coming from an opinionated guy.
Yep. Well, technically he didn't have anything to do with Donkey Kong Country because that was Rare's development. So he obviously looked at it and said, well, this game is very lackluster in the platforming, and but it looks pretty, so I guess people like it. So people obviously don't care about gameplay.
My goodness.
Yeah, so... but
all the Donkey Kong Country fans are like, man, what the heck?
Ah.
Like, this game is probably one of the greatest platformers. And in my opinion, better than some of the Mario platforming games, but
Like the original Donkey Kong Country, I don't know if I'd rank it that high. Like if you're talking about 2 or 3, then I would agree with you. Like I think those are excellent, fine, phenomenal games. But I'm like the first Donkey Kong, like even playing through it again, and even on our pod, we were kind of like, it's okay. I don't know. It seems kind of difficult, and it's not like they really knew what they were doing. Like the level themes just randomly change, and they're like, oh, you have to try and push this tire across the level. Oh no, run away from a giant wheel. I'm like, well, that was like 2 different levels. Like what happened? So.
yeah, but isn't that like most platformers? They're not.
Oh, but like each.
It's kind of like the lower rung of genres.
I don't know. We'll get into the notes. Super Mario World is pretty clean, I think, and this one is like for the most part screen by screen, anyways, fairly clean. Like they have one idea you have to do on the first screen. You move to the next second area. The theme might change that you're doing, but it's not like just random else. And they're like, "We'll run away from this giant bow wow," and they're like, "Oh, now you gotta become a mole and dig for treasure," and then, "Oh no, you gotta climb up this tower really fast because lava's coming," on like one screen, right? Like those would be 3 different little areas. So,
yeah.
Yoshi's Island was in development for 4 years, which let the team add lots of magic tricks. Ooh. The game cartridge used an extra microchip to support the game's rotation, scaling, and other sprite-changing effects. Yoshi's Island was designed to use the Super FX chip, but when Nintendo stopped supporting the chip, the game became the first to use the Argonaut game's Super FX2 microchip. Yoshi's Island was first released in Japan in August 1995, and 2 months later in North America and Europe. At the time of the release, the Super NES was nearing its twilight as a console, in anticipation of Nintendo's upcoming console to be released the following year, 1996. I wonder what console came out in 1996.
I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Oh, this game, the Game Boy Advanced version of this was released on the 3DS and Wii U via Nintendo's digital virtual console platform. The port retains the handheld version's cropped screen and pack-in Mario Bros. Game, though the multiplayer mode is disabled. And it's so weird that we're playing a game that came out just 1 year before the N64 came out. So I wonder if N64 games are going to come out on this podcast next year at this time.
It'll be, I wonder which ones we're going to save for that, because I know we have a pretty large catalog of Super Nintendo games to get through.
I thought the plan was we were going to do Mario 64 next November as part of the month of Mario, and that'll be our like entry point to the N64. So then we can start picking Super Nintendo and kind of jump between the Super Nintendo and N64 for a bit.
Ah, good, because we need to make sure that Turtles in Time definitely gets
I think
dedicated.
So we have like the next year basically to wrap up all the rest of the NES games. So it's like 4 that we haven't played that we need to play. So like the Gaiden, what's it called? Like the DuckTales. Woo! I couldn't think of the name without the song apparently. And there's a couple other ones. I'm like, oh, we should probably hit those up because again, we're not going to hit them again once we move on to like bigger and better systems. So
true, and it'll be harder to go back.
The controls of this game, you don't have to hold the run button in this title, which is kind of odd. You just start out at a slight gallop, and then you kind of break into an all-out sprint. You can eat enemies, turn them into eggs, and shoot them at other enemies or secret clouds. Yoshi has a kind of stall jump where he kicks his legs, kind of like a flutter, to remain in the air a little longer. You are invincible. Once you are hit, you buck Baby Mario, and have a set time to grab him. Other than like pits and spikes, you're a machine. Don't you feel bad now, all those times you send Yoshi down pits in the last game? You were just killing the poor little guy, so...
Yeah, and they actually admitted that, when you're doing that whole thing about, like, it looks like Mario's punching the back of his head. He straight up is apparently just punching the back of his head. So Yoshi saves him only to be abused by this murderer in the future.
Bastard. You can turn into several machines. There's a helicopter, a car, a mole, and did I forget anything? Or are those the ones?
There's a train.
Oh, the train. I hate the train. All right.
Yeah, it's pretty lame.
Okay, so we're in 17, I think. The world's crazy. There's like drones. There's stuff dropping on our roof constantly. That's like a meteor that keeps attacking us from the aliens. I like the fake world I make up. I mean, I guess the drones are real.
Yeah, and Facebook's still popular, so, it's a pretty dark place.
To get this in the right mindset, those nostalgia juices flowing, we're going to hop into our Wayback Machine now. We're going to head back to 1995, and we're going to let you guys know what was going on in 1995. And then you could be like, oh, yeah, I remember that. Especially if you don't remember when this game was released. We'll find out, I remember that episode on TV. And then you'll be like, so apparently that's when the game came out. Although I kind of do remember this game coming out on. So this was like one of the first games, because like 95 apparently was like when I'm a functioning child. And I was like, because I remember these commercials. I remember being like, I really want to buy it. But I didn't get it for some reason. So thanks a lot, Donkey Kong Country 3. All right. Favorite shows. So we used to just do Simpsons, talk about our favorite shows. We now do a new segment, Simpsons or something else. So we'll look at what's going on in the Simpsons, and then I'll try and sell Tyson on his new favorite show. I present to you The Simpsons. Home sweet, home diddly dum doodly. After some events that make Homer and Marge look like bad parents, Bart, Lisa, and Maggie get sent to live with the Flanderses.
Oh, this is a pretty great episode, because the Flanders, you actually get to see what happens in their daily life, and they are some of the boringest people ever.
They are some of the most boring people ever. So Tyson's like, it's a pretty great episode. Or would he rather be watching Pinky and the Brain? TV or not TV? Brain invents dentures that give him a smile which can hypnotize anyone that sees him without sunglasses. He goes on to attempt to become a celebrity, a stand-up comic specifically, in order to achieve mass population control. When starting out on his first show, he uses a joke used by other comics, which gets him instantly booed. But when he starts insulting the audience, you're all repugnant. Everyone bursts out laughing. I didn't have that written down. I just remember this episode from a child. So
do I. This is a pretty awesome episode.
Everyone bursts out laughing, showing the benefits of showing benefit of his friendship. Pinky, also a subtle reference to the snide comments Groucho Marxo made at his show, launching the Marxo brothers' career as comics. I might have missed a sentence there, but that's the point of the episode. And then something happens where like they have to be not wearing sunglasses or something, and he does like a show outside, and everyone's wearing sunglasses. It's, I don't know, very confusing. So, which of those shows would you rather watch? Pinky and the Brain or The Simpsons?
I would have to say Pinky and the Brain.
Nice.
Because this is a pretty amazing run for Pinky and the Brain. I think they're only on the air for 4 years or so.
Something like that, yeah.
And every episode was pretty classic.
Yeah.
Like, I remember the theme song. It's ingrained in my mind.
The Pinky and the Brain, 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 brain.
And this is one of those episodes that I do specifically remember sitting down and watching, so.
Nice.
And the Simpson episode is it's okay. It's not the greatest, and it's kind of, it's Simpsons at this point it's doing okay, but it's not as special as the first couple of seasons.
All right. Other things you could watch on TV were ER, Caroline in the City, that sounds awful, News Radio, The Drew Carey Show, and Seinfeld. Movies. Oh, we forgot to set up your hypothetical birthday. God damn it. So, for Trick or Treat, the old lady down the street gives us one magical ticket to go to watch the movie in the theater. We're like, it's weird you're giving out tickets for October 4th, lady. Like, maybe you're mental, just saying. And mental illness isn't that well known because it's 95. You should see some help, take care of yourself.
Nope.
But
nobody has the internet, so you can't self-diagnose on...
No WebMD, There's not even phone MD yet. It's not a thing.
Yeah, everybody still has their medical books that has a list of things, and you have to go through the glossary.
Yeah, it's terrible. But so we're at the movie theater with our magic ticket. We can see one movie. We've got Canadian Bacon, Empire Records, Seven, Showgirls, or Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers. So I believe that's Halloween 4.
I think you're right. Because I don't know my Halloweens that well.
I believe that's the one. Yeah, because 1, 2. I mean, I think they just called it Halloween 2. when they're in the hospital. And then Halloween 3 is the Season of the Witch, about the mind-controlling masks. And then the fourth one is back to Michael Myers, so...
Yeah, you're probably right on that one.
All right. Games that are released. So maybe instead of like a movie, we're like, I don't really want to go watch Seven, which is one of the greatest movies of all time. Or like Showgirls does nothing for me because I'm not a 13-year-old boy.
Yeah, and Canadian Bacon's, it's okay, but I'm not a big early 90s comedy fan.
Fair enough. So we could also maybe trade it for a game. Games that were released around this time, or specifically just in 1994. Dragon Quest IV, Chrono Trigger, Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy Kong's Conquest, and Mortal Kombat 3. So, those are pretty fun.
This is a pretty sick little run of games.
Oh, yeah. So, Chrono Trigger, I definitely am pretty sure it came out in 94? I don't know. Maybe it was, like, right around, like, the turning point.
Could have been, like, late 94, early 2000, or 95, I mean.
Interesting. Now, top 3 songs that are playing on our mom's minivan's car radio that we're like, yeah, we're cool, we got a minivan, because we're 90 kids. The number 3 song, according to the Billboard charts, is Runaway by Janet Jackson.
I don't think I know any Janet Jackson songs.
Yeah. How about, do you know the number 2 song? As I Lay Me Down by Sophie B. Hawkins?
Classic that I know nothing about.
The only reason I know who Sophie B. Hawkins is on Community when Britta mistakes this, what is it called? The Hawkins dance, whatever that one's called in the States, where the girls invites the boys, and she calls it Sadie Hawkins, and she's like, Sophie B. Hawkins, and like, wait, what do you mean? She's like, no, it's a dance specifically themed around her. She's coming, and then she ends up just singing about how damn she wish Abed was Batman. That's all I know about Sophie B. Hawkins.
You know more than... Yeah, that's about as much as I know.
All right. I mean, you didn't know that reference, but you're like, oh, okay, that's who that was? Yeah, that's not a thing that's going to ever retain in my head. And the number 1 song, according to the Billboard charts, for October 4th, 1995, was Fantasy by Mariah.
Why is Mariah Carey so popular?
Yeah, what was the last show we did? Wasn't it like 1990? Like, Mariah Carey was just a very popular solo, like, pop star for 10 years. That's amazing.
Yeah. That is, she had an incredible career, and I still know none of her songs.
Oh, like, this is just absolutely astounding. I'm excited for us to do, like, man. Mariah Carey, congratulations on a successful run of, like, 90s top... Because I don't think she gets recognized for, like, how great she was in the 90s.
Yeah, well, I think most people just try to forget about the 90s and just...
Well, like, because we were like, oh, yeah, the Spice
Girls
Girls, and, like, Britney Spears came out at the end, and NSYNC. But, like, Mariah Carey ran a train on the 90s. Like, she was, like, the 90s fucking queen. So, good job, Mariah Carey. Yeah. And Sophie B. Hawkins, way to be on Community and make yourself relevant in the 2000s, you know?
Yeah, way to make... it so I have some frame of reference of who you are.
All right, but those nostalgia juices are flowing. You're like, either heard a song, maybe you saw a game, maybe you're like, oh, I remember watching Pinky and the Brain. Maybe you saw one of those movies when it came out. Hopefully, if you're a kid, you didn't watch Seven, because you're probably a serial killer right now, or definitely a sociopath. Like,
yeah, or definitely have to spend a large fortune in psychiatric help. So, good luck with those bills.
Yeah. So first memories of this game. I absolutely loved Super Mario World as a kid and wanted to own this game so badly. I remember seeing the commercial of the guy who, like, ate himself to death, which is very reminiscent of Seven, which came out around the same time, so that's weird. And I remember seeing the game in display cases in stores, and it was just one of those things because it was expensive. It was like a $60 game. I didn't have a job. I didn't really have cash. I don't even think like my allowance went to the $5 action figure. I never like could save up and buy something because I'm stupid. So I guess that's why my next point was like, I don't know why I got it or didn't get it. That's probably why. Tyson's friend Brett had it, and I remember going to his house and playing the shit out of that game. So
Yeah, he had all the good games. So you'd be like, renting from Blockbuster is really expensive, but my one friend has it, and maybe if I beg him, I could borrow it. But he knew we'd never return it, so he was smart and held on to it.
It's very true. The difference in aesthetics and gameplay definitely affected my enjoyment of it. I don't know if I meant that for a good or a bad. I think I meant it for a good, because it was very kind of a cartoony, cute, pastel-y artwork style. So I think that was definitely a plus. I'm pretty sure we had a Game Boy Advanced copy when it came out. Like I said, I know I have one now. And as well as I've played it several times since. So it's not my first time playing through this game. It's probably my, I don't know, sixth time or something like that. It's not the most popular game that I've ever played, but for a platformer, I feel like 6 times is quite a bit.
True, and when we just replaying it for this podcast, hearing those opening music, it's just like, oh man, nostalgia juices is just flowing. So if you haven't gone back and like relived this game, please do, because just the soundtrack alone is spectacular.
Yeah, phenomenal soundtrack, very cute. I'm going to add some clips probably at the start of the show, at the end of the show, so you have a chance to listen to some of the music. Quickly, graphics, we haven't really talked about it. Graphics are a big part of this game. They're done in kind of a storybook, cute, pastel-y style. Everything stands out quite a bit. And I think it's just noteworthy just to even mention somewhere that it was that's kind of what they looked like, and they definitely, I think, affected the way this game was perceived. So
yeah, and they put a lot of time and effort into the graphic design, so it shows.
Nice. All right, and from there we'll move on to the story of Podtendo. It's funny. God damn it! It's funny to see later NES or Super Nintendo games that the story starts being like more fleshed out. It's not just a simple text box, or they expect you to read the manual. They've kind of started to move towards more of that narrative, and they start adding cinematics to the beginning of games, so that you can kind of understand just by playing the cartridge, and they don't make you rely so much on the manuals, right?
Yeah, totally. And the other thing is the stories are actually now starting to just kind of make sense, instead of just being like, here's some hodgepodge of stuff that kind of makes it a thing, but it's clearly an afterthought.
Well, all right. Why did Kamek want to steal the Mario Brothers?
Touche.
On to the level notes. So we're going to do this a little differently. There's 6 worlds to talk about. There's 8 regular stages, and then 2 bonus stages. If you get enough points, you can unlock them. We're going to each pick what our favorite level is, talk about the final level, and move on. So it'll be a little bit faster. If we didn't talk about your level, I'm sorry. If you're listening along and you're like, oh, they didn't talk about that level, I really like that level, you can let us know. We can always readdress this. I would love to do a Super Mario World, like another Super Mario World show, like maybe talk about like specifically realm hacks, or play through one of those randomizers. So we can always readdress that. So sorry if we let you down. World 1, basic world. I don't know, like Very just kind of like simple, basic, plain, nothing much going on. The level I chose to talk about was stage 1-2, which is Watch Out Below. This level introduces 2 mechanics. The first is an enemy in the the background attacking you. So you'll be walking along, you see these chain chomps on a kind of a ledge way behind the screen. They then jump forward and actually will put holes in the ground, which I think is a really kind of neat, fun. It might come into play with like later bosses and whatnot, and it just starts showing you with what kind of the graphics it could do. And the second is a vehicle exploration section that has you explore the second half as a helicopter. There's a lot of trial and error before you can get 100% in this area, and it just shows you how big some of these levels can be. What level did you choose, Tyson?
I chose the Touch Fuzzy Get Dizzy.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome because basically you're in a forest. It's pretty boring, but then all of a sudden there's like these little white floating kind of things, and I remember like touching them as a kid, and all of a sudden the game, like, you basically get drunk. So instead of being dizzy, you're just kind of like the world's like all like wavy, and they really take advantage of the Super FX2 chip or whatever they're using in this. So they really they kind of like everything kind of like the music slows down, the worlds get a little bit like harder to maneuver, and the actual like land and everything just kind of like blurs and gets a wave effect to it, and it's pretty awesome.
It's definitely, it's just they somehow got you do drugs and they got it passed into a Nintendo game. So
yeah, pretty awesome.
Yeah. Nice. The final level here is, it's kind of just a basic castle level. Shows you kind of what the theme, what it's going to look like. It has kind of a lot of puzzles, enemies, and collectibles. The boss, do you have anything to add to the level, the final castle?
It's pretty straightforward. Yeah.
The boss is Salvo the Slime. He can't hurt you, so it's this little slime. Kamek comes along, makes him a giant slime. You have to launch eggs at him, and as the eggs bounce between the walls, they kind of make him smaller. He kind of spews out parts of him. You can actually collect the little balls that come off him and turn them into eggs. So basically, he just can push you around. The little slimes that comes off can apparently hurt him or hurt you, so if you do get hit by them. I never ever found that, though, so I'm not sure where that is. Hit him enough times till he shrinks, and you win. Yay!
Yeah.
World 2, Donut Plains. I don't know if that's like what it was called, but I was like, that's the second part of Mario World 2. Anyways, the stage, again, kind of just an intro level. My level that I chose, nothing stood out too much, so I went with stage 2-4, Bigger Boo's Fort. This area introduces a smarter enemy. You can only damage the boos when you are facing them, which means you have to bounce your eggs off a wall while it's coming at you. You don't have to take them out, which is kind of nice. You can just skip along. But Bigger Boo, the boss at this fort, you actually have to face away, bounce the eggs off the wall to kill him. So they kind of teach you the mechanics. And I was thinking about this quite a bit, actually, before we started talking. I like this game because of all the mechanics it teaches you early on that you then have to use later on. So you learn how to defeat the boos by trial and error throughout the level. The boss is then a boo. It's not just they throw something at you, right? You've already kind of maybe practiced, built that skill set. And I like that. I think that's quite excellent game design.
Yeah, there is a couple like pop-up text boxes, but this game's really well designed in that regard, especially when it comes to just kind of giving you a taste of something so later on, either in that level or future levels, that you know what you're supposed to do. So you're not just kind of wandering around lost, or you just don't know how to defeat somebody. It actually kind of makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And I've always thought that that's like a good sign of a game. If a game has excellent level design and you're not spending too much time trying to figure out what to do, where to go, and it just kind of flows through. And I was like almost trying to compare it in my mind to board games, because there's lots of board games out there, and people are like, oh, board games are great. But how many board games that you have to play that you pick up after 6 months of not playing them, and you're like, I have no idea how this works. Oh yeah, it works like this or something like that. Like that game probably isn't as well designed as others. Like for example, we played Ticket to Ride last weekend. With minimal instruction reading, everyone was able to figure out the game. I mean, the more you play, the better you get at strategizing. But everyone can play from a very basic level pretty early on, right? So
Yeah, and you kind of pick up what you're supposed to be doing. Where even as like a game like Clue, you're still like, okay, well, what am I supposed to be doing here? What are all the like? You have to use the room that you're in, and all that kind of stuff. It's especially if there is like a 2-player version, and it's very, very different.
Oh,
so,
that's right.
Like,
like Clue, Monopoly are not well designed board games. Everyone knows them,
True.
and they're like, "Oh yeah, of course I play this." But I think it's just like repetition, and then everyone's repetition. Versus newer games have to come out, and they have to be very simple and distinct and like make sense. So
yeah, and even Risk for that matter, where it's like, how many do I get a turn? Do I get any per turn?
Yeah.
And like, how do I set up the board? Yeah. So
yeah.
some of those classics are just benefit from, being in pop culture for as long as they do.
Nice. So what stage did you like in World 2?
I picked, I guess it's level 2-6 or 5 or something. It's one with the baseball boys.
Okay.
Basically, the reason I picked this one is because I thought they were actually some unique characters, and they're kind of difficult to defeat. Where you like there's a guy with a catcher's mitt, where if you shoot an egg at him, he'll like hold onto it and then turn around and whip it at you, and a little like aiming reticle will appear over you. And then there's the baseball guys, or like the bat boys, and they if they're facing you and you throw an egg, they'll just like straight up smack it back at you, which I thought was kind of cool. Now we're actually starting to get to a place where AI in the game is smart, so you can't just kind of mindlessly just like butt stomp them or do whatever, that kind of stuff. You have to kind of be like approach them with a strategy.
Yeah.
The other thing about this one is I think it's the first time we get to play as the mole, and they're the mole tank, which is one of the cooler Yoshi transformations. But it's basically just a overworld and a map, or a little maze underneath in tunnels. And, yeah, baseball boys.
Nice.
Pretty boring, but not bad.
Nice. And then the final boss was the Potted Ghost's castle. I wonder what he's going to be. I think this for some reason, this castle stands out to me a lot. When I think of this game, I think of this castle for some reason. The room where all the little Shy Guys have the bombs, and they kind of, firemen carry them across and drop them on top of you. That, for some reason, I'm always like, oh, that's so neat. As well as there's a mechanic where you have to push pots off ledges to break them to get eggs, keys, nothing. And it's very apropos because guess what? It taught us a mechanic of how we beat the boss again. So you fight the boss, the potted plant. This room, I don't think he hurts you too badly. You can shoot the potted ghost. Sorry, not the potted plant, the potted ghost. You shoot him, stun him. You then have to push against 2 little Shy Guys. And the idea is you're trying to push the pot off the other ledge. Push it off, it breaks, he dies, you win. Yay!
Yeah. This is one of the more simpler bosses. If you just kind of avoid the flames, I don't think he can actually hurt you as long as you're just actively pushing.
Yeah, I think he can push you. And it is, he pushes you.
Push you off.
But that's about it.
But, yeah, and shoots 3 blue flames that move very slowly. So if you just like walk away, let them die out, and then you can get back to pushing them. And the Shy Guys aren't that quick at pushing the pot. So as long as you know what you're doing off the bat, you're probably okay.
Yeah. World 3, water/swamp world. Did it. This is kind of like all the themes have water, they're wet or something, muddy. The stage I picked was stage 3-4, Prince Froggy's Fort. I just like this level due to the boss fight. That's nothing else really stands out about it. You get shrunk, and the frog eats you. You're then inside, and you have to battle his stomach. So he has kind of like one of those jejunum things, like the little, I don't know, thing that hangs in the back of your throat, hanging into his stomach. You then have to eat little Shy Guys that he eats, or the stomach acid that comes down, fire eggs at it. He kind of gets upset, dies, and then he poops you out, and you win.
Yeah. Pretty straightforward, but it's kind of neat. It's kind of the first time where instead of growing the bad guy big, or you actually shrink. So that's neat. I don't know why. I forget what the mage's guy's name is. You said it earlier.
Magic Koopa. Or Kamek? I don't know, one of the two. You pick it.
Yeah, either one. Let's say Magic
Yep.
Koopa. It's the first time that he actually just like affects you, and you're like, man, why doesn't he just show up every single level and shrink you?
Yeah.
Life would be so much harder.
Yeah, very true. What level did you pick?
I picked the. Sorry, I'll actually get. It's number 3-3.
Okay.
Nup Nup, or Nip. Yeah, I think it's Nup Nup. It's the big blue guy
yes.
that just basically pops out of the water and sits there and stares at you, and you have to waste an egg hitting him. And there's all the bloody monkeys, and this is where slowdown can be a real bloody issue because this game has only a set amount of horsepower, and they've crammed it filled with all sorts of sprite and everything. So it'll actually like slow down, like in the game will actually kind of lag a little bit if you're like pushing too hard or there's too many things going on the screen. And this was the first kind of time I actually ran into that. But I don't know, I always really like the little helicopter part, and so you get turned into a helicopter and a submarine.
So the other cool
pretty-
thing about this level is Nip Nip or Nip Nip, whatever his name is on the cover art of this game.
Yes, and he was something that I always just kind of remember, like very like fondly. He wasn't hard to get around. You just hit him once and he shrinks, or he hides back down, or whatever you want to call it. And the other thing that we kind of forgot to mention is there'll be these circles of stars, and if you jump through them, it will kind of refill your health meter.
Oh yeah, we
and
didn't really talk
it will
about that
also-
at all. We didn't talk about.
No, we didn't.
Huh.
So there's, we might as well mention it right now. So there's 3 things that you're supposed to kind of do to get 100% on each level. There's 20 gold stars, or gold coins, sorry, not gold coins, red coins. And then you have 30 little health, or little stars that you can either fill up through rings, or if you bounce an egg up and down and get a red one. Because I think it's after 3 bounces, you can get a red one, and then as soon as you hit an enemy and it kills them, you can get 2 of these little like stars, which basically act as your health meter. It's the 30-second timer you have before the like let's say you get hit, Baby Mario will fly off and start get captured, and you have 30 seconds max to kind of get to him, and he has this most irritating cry. So to get 100%, you need to find all 3 flowers, get all 20 red coins, and have full 30 stars, or let's say the stars or whatever the heck they are.
5 flowers, not 3.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That was it, right?
Yeah. Well, sorry. When you jump through the little circle of stars, it refills your meter, and any enemies on the stage will get turned into those little stars. Nup Nup is immune to that, so maybe he's too big or something.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It was kind of more of like a game mechanic than an enemy, or like a level mechanic too.
Yeah. And he's just got the sweetest eyebrows ever.
All right, so let's go as fast as we can and get out of this world, because I hate it. I hate just the wetness and like the mud, and it just imagines like you get dirty and it would like get stuck on you, and I just don't like this world for some reason. I don't know, it doesn't do much for me. So we go to the final level, Naval Piranha's Castle. This area has kind of like a maze theme. There's water that'll push you around, a couple puzzles, nothing super major, and the boss is Naval the Piranha. Now I've heard that if you swim into the room, jump on the platform, as you shoot an egg, you can actually hit the piranha, the little piranha plant guy, kill him. It triggers the cutscene and just ends the level in the stage, and you move on to the next world. I couldn't get it to happen. I don't know. I didn't really watch a speed run or anything. Normally, you jump up, he turns into a giant piranha, and he's got like a little belly button, I guess, is on his vine sticks out like a little big beer belly or something. He's got a little like nub, on it, and you hit that 3 times, and you win. Hey.
Yeah, and if you actually can pull off that trick of like riding in while throwing an egg and hitting them, Magic Koopa will come in and be like, "Oh no," and then just leave. So that's programmed in to be like, "Yep, you can do this if you're good enough."
That's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. So, on to World 4, Cave World. The level I picked was stage 4-3. I enjoyed this level since it added kind of a sense of urgency to your adventure. There are platforms with numbers on them. You land on them. They'll be either 3, 2, 1. And then as soon as you jump off, it explodes. So running along them makes them explode as well. It just, I don't know, I think it's a little something different than just the collectathon that we've been on, and there's these big levels you're trying to explore. This is kind of one of those ones that pushes you forward, so I like that.
Yes. The level I chose was 4-1 because you get to play as Super Baby Mario, Baby Mario touches a superstar, which you can do in a couple of the earlier levels. We didn't really mention it, but basically it's another transformation, but Baby Mario basically gets his super cape and starts running around really fast. And as long as you keep hitting the stars, you can run on, like he can run on the ceiling. He's basically indestructible. It's pretty fun. And not a lot of Yoshi in this level, but after playing through 4 worlds of Yoshi, it's nice to mix it up and have almost a whole dedicated level to Baby Mario.
The reason I wasn't talking was I have a bunch of broccoli and carrots and cauliflower that I'm eating, and I found the mute button on my mic. So every time you're talking, throw one of those bad boys in my mouth, having a snack.
Nice.
Vegetable snack. Because, man, playing as Yoshi makes me so hungry.
He does eat a lot.
He does eat a lot. Final level here was Hookbill the Koopa's Castle. This area had a lot of puzzles. It involved shooting turtle shells. I actually had to go back and watch a pro gamer play through this level to jog my memory. It's a little crazy, all the little nuances that the game expects you to do and know just to get 100%. Like there's like little hidden jumps here, there's a secret there, or you have to open up all these question mark clouds like in the right order to get to a certain place just to unlock like one flower. I was like, oh geez. So I'm glad I didn't go for 100% run. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I gave up on that after like World 2.
Yeah, fair enough. The boss here was Hookbill the Koopa. You have to shoot this guy 3 times in a row so that he falls on his back and he can be hit. So this kind of, I think the first one he slowly lumbers at you, then he kind of is more upright and sprints, and the last time he's just teetering, and it's a pretty quick process. You have to be fairly accurate with your egg throwing. Rinse and repeat, and you win.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, I think that as the boss, like this is kind of like not the coolest boss or like a neat boss, but it's just like a regular Koopa that's just standing there and gets grown big. And to refill, did you mention how you refill your eggs is by jumping on his head?
Oh, that's right, and he coughs them out.
And then he coughs up, which is, I don't know how that works, but
it needed a new mechanic other than just the little flowers that just spit out Yoshi eggs. So
yeah.
Oh, I should have wrote some theory about those weird flowers. Like, what's the deal with them? They just spit out baby Yoshis all the time? What's this about? It's ridiculous.
Maybe that's why there's a whole troop of
also, them. Your response after I talk about a boss should just be absolutely. So, you really dropped the ball on that one. Coming up with your own, own thoughts. What am I paying you for? It's just ridiculous. World 5, Snowtop Mountain. I don't know if that's what it's called, but it sounds adorable. Snowtop Mountain. Don't you want to go there?
Yeah, sounds cold.
My level I picked was stage 5-3. Icy conditions ahead! This is probably one of my most favorite areas in the game. Definitely when I was a kid, I would go back and play this again and again. Because at one point you get to go skiing! It's a lot of fun, but it's also not fun because if you hit a rock, you crash and you die. So it took me probably I spent the most time in the game just trying to beat this area. And not so much have fun, but I guess as a kid, when you know all the little jumps and you're trying to go for 100% with your friend, it can be a lot of fun, as well as a little aesthetic of you guys bundled up in your little toques and your skis. It's very cute. So, what's your world?
Mine's the 5-4, and the unshaken, shaven fort. So, the main bad guy in it is Sluggy, who's just this little slug sitting there and gets turned into a giant slug, and you have to shoot the arrow or shoot your eggs and basically punch him in, and he has this little heart there. You have to hit him in the heart, I think it's 3 times or something. But this level also has the dangling ghost from the ceiling, And I like this because as soon as you hit them, they get a really sad look on their face, and they're like, "Man, that sucked. Don't do that. That hurt." And you're like, "Oh, the sprites in this game are so adorable. I can't help but smile when I'm playing this game." So
It is very cute and cartoony actually throughout, and the animation is pretty excellent for most of the characters too. So I would agree. The final level is Bruce the Raven Bruce Raven's castle or something. I just remember that this castle has lots of spikes in it, involves lots of climbing. At one point, you actually have to eat an arrow elevator, so there's these little circles with arrows, and they move in the direction that they're pointed. They'll bounce off walls. I couldn't figure that out. I actually had to read a help bubble, and I was like, oh, okay. And then the boss of this, which I think is one of the better bosses in the game, Bruce the Raven on the moon. So you get launched to the moon. Bruce then jumps after you, and then you have to run around the little planet, and there's 2 posts, and you have to wait for him to be on the opposite side, ground pound, hit him with the post, and you win. Yay.
mm-hmm.
So it's fun because it teaches you that not all bosses are defeated just by tossing eggs. Maybe that'll become useful in a fight or two. Wink.
Yes, especially with the upcoming kind of boss run we have coming.
Mm-hmm. World 6, the Dark Castle area. I don't know if that's what the worlds were called. That's what I just called them based on what they looked like. So, my level was stage 6-5, the Very Long Cave. I read that name and was expecting a very tedious and tiresome area. It wasn't too bad, honestly. And I definitely just couldn't pick up a fun level because they all kind of suck. So, what's your favorite level?
I chose the fort in this one, 6-4. It's called Tap Tap the Red Nose Fort. And it's basically made up of a lot of tubes that need keys. So you have to go through, I think the first part, there's these 4 little doors you have to go through, and you have to go explore each one of those and get 4 keys. And you only have 6 egg slots. So by the time you move into the next area, you are basically running off 2 eggs, which I think is kind of neat because the game's starting to get difficult, so they have to kind of throw a hindrance in there somehow. And you can go through a dark part, and it's all dark, and all you can see is a little like light bubble, and the bad guys in the background have just their little like shadows and eyes sticking out, which is pretty cute, but also like a little bit scary because it's getting pretty dark near the end. And Tap Tap is basically this giant spike ball with eyes and a red nose, and he's sitting on what looks like Tetris blocks, or like just blocks that if you hit them, like if it's green, it takes 3
what's that?
bounces.
What was that game that was big on the BlackBerry? Brick Breaker? It's like Brick Breaker.
Yeah, exactly. But Brick Breaker's the floor, and you get to play Brick Breaker with Yoshi and try to try to knock him into the lava. If you know what you're doing, you basically beat Tap Tap really easy by just like aiming down, and you know he's gonna hop once. You just like literally spam like 6 eggs, and it will just basically like just the entire floor will drop out, and he'll just jump into the lava and die immediately. So that's always fun.
Nice. So on to the final level. There are 4 parts to this area. It's the helicopter transformation versus Magic Koopa Showdown, Pick a Door, the auto-scroll hallway, and the final boss. I think I got door number 1, which I've read is the easiest door, but not really. So I actually watched a video of all 4 doors. So door 1 is you're going along, there's little shy guys with a trap, so it's a big ball and chain. They just drop it down to block the way. Move kind of quickly and you'll be alright. I think the hardest part is there's 3 little platforms that go up and down across the lava. Get some eggs, play Brick Breaker, create a little pathway for you to get to the other side. It's over. Number 2, if I remember correctly, was I think you have to fight Tap Tap. So Tap Tap actually chases you, and he sits there and he kind of walks along, and you have to outrun him, and it's like kind of like an underground lava-y themed world. There's lots of bats to eat though, so it's not too bad. There's another one where it's just a bunch of coins. It's kind of like a shifting block. You run along, collect the coins, get a couple free lives, and then there's another one that's maybe that was... Anyways, there's 2 that are basically just simple bonuses that get you 5 or 10 red coins and a couple lives. Tap Tap, who's like the mini boss fight, and then one which is just kind of like a mini corridor. Do you know what number you got?
I think I ran away from Tap Tap.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so I mean, I also feel like if you did that, I was kind of watching, it's a bit more intense than the rest of them, like the other 3 options for sure. So I imagine that would make Tap Tap stand out a bit more as a boss. Maybe that's why you picked it as your favorite level, so.
Yeah, well, I always kind of like the bosses in this game. I think they're some of the funnest part. I'm
also
more of a action-oriented guy than a platformer.
It's also strange that we never picked the same level.
Yeah. Well, I tried to pick not the ones that you picked.
Yeah, all right. Well, I mean, it probably been fine if we would have just picked the same one, too. All right.
That's fair.
But we're on to the final boss, Baby Bowser. He wants to ride the green donkey, so we get into a butt stomp fight with him. After 3 hits, he's defeated. Magic Koopa makes him turn into giant Baby Bowser. The castle's kind of destroyed. His room's broken. He's way off in the background, and he menacingly walks towards you. You have to launch giant eggs at his face, hit him in the head. It's like 6 or 7 times. He dies. Game over. You win. Yay. Kind of fun, although the aiming mechanic is definitely, it's more trial and error. Basically, just wait for him to get really close and then hit him in the face a bunch of times, because he's really, once he's up close, he's really easy to hit, and then he gets knocked back. Yeah. So just wait.
I've heard that you can use kind of the horizon to kind of line up your shots, but I suck at it, so...
Yeah.
Also, the other thing is when he first kind of like wakes up, he stomps on Magic Koopa and like kicks him off, which is hilarious because he literally just like kicks him off and like floats to the bottom of the screen through the floor. And the other thing is there's like to replay your eggs, there's these giant eggs with green happy balloons kind of floating in, and they're huge. So it makes sense that you're actually doing damage instead of those like tiny little eggs that you get. So it's neat that they actually varied the size of eggs and actually the different type of eggs all the time. So
nice.
Much cooler.
But we then run to the side. We see the stork that was carrying us that was captured. I guess he must have been captured at some point. And we've saved Luigi. Yay.
Yep.
Credits roll. I don't think the credits do anything special other than they show just Stork flying the babies home. At the end of the credits, lands the babies, and the babies arrive with their parents. Yay.
First sighting of the actual Mario and Luigi's mom and dad.
Well, unless you've played the sequels, and then it turns out the stork went to the wrong house, but that's a story for a different day.
Yes.
But we beat it. Make your point.
I was just going to say we forgot to totally mention how awesome the boss music is.
Yeah.
When Baby Bowser turns big, you basically get this cool like little guitar riff, I would say, and it's pretty awesome. It's one of those things where when I was a kid, I was like, man, I want to learn the guitar just so I can play this. I would never know how to play it or actually have the time and effort to play it because without the context, it's not as cool as you'd think. But when you're a kid, it makes electric guitar seem like the coolest thing ever.
Wow, that was a cool song. Thanks for queuing that up with the editor, Tyson. I'm going to see if I remember to put that in. Maybe I'll put up a sound clip. Otherwise, it'll sound like an asshole. Well, more of an asshole. Yeah. All right, current thoughts on this game. I like the charm and innocence of this title. The visual appeal of this game sets it apart better than other retro games. Especially like if you look at, say, Mario 64. It's very dated. It's very, it looked good at the time and it was 3D, but you look back and you're like, ugh. Versus you can go back and look at this game and you're like, I think it still looks good. For like a 2D platformer on the Super Nintendo, this game looks excellent. I'd say the levels are kind of a little bit big. To collect everything would take a lot of time and effort, so if I was to 100% complete this game, I imagine I would stop liking this, to be honest with you. The bosses are very creative and they definitely stand out. Probably the best point of this game, as Tyson is mentioning, and the mechanics do become a bit stale towards the end. Yoshi's kind of a limited character in what he can do, so...
Yeah, I think they did the best with what they could, especially considering this is following up one of the best games of all time. So they had to kind of go a unique route with it, and it's about as long as it needs to be. I think any longer or any shorter, it wouldn't be as satisfactory or kind of as, rewarding. But I think it is what it is, and it's decent. I enjoyed it. I brought back a lot of the nostalgia from my childhood, so I think it did its job.
For this, I was having a nap. I had like the craziest dreams. I had this dream that I was at this magic show and I was sitting in the front row and I was a magician critic. So people would come and like show me their magic tricks and I figured out how they did it, and then we'd like figure out if they like could move on to our show or something like that. So basically I was just playing Penn and Teller's Fool Us.
Okay.
It had there was like a really cool like guitar riff during one of the guy's magic acts, and it was a long dream. Like I remember waking up being like, "Man, I'm exhausted. I worked like a good 8 hours." So
you sat through a lot of magic acts that dream.
Apparently, strange. Anyways, next part. What would you change about this game? Is there anything you would change? What would it be? I think the game's display, letting you know how you're doing in terms of collectibles, would help, especially from that 100%, because I don't know about you, but like my Game Boy Advanced version on my Wii U where I played it, couldn't find it anywhere. Like, didn't have a start, didn't have a screen. I had to basically count. So collecting the red coins was like, I'd get to 18 a couple times, finish the level, and be like, you missed 2 coins. And I'm like, well, I wish I would have known that. That's dumb. And then maybe maybe a better reward system. So, hey, collect everything in this level and you get 2 harder levels, doesn't really float with me. So, I mean, if there was, pick what Yoshi you play, because maybe I have, like, Blue Yoshi I really like, and I could play with him in every level, or something, like the Luigi version. So it's the same game, but Luigi's there instead of Mario. I don't know. It's like something other than just, here's really tough levels.
Yeah, I'm never a big fan of, like, here's more levels, like,
yeah.
So what? I have no goal. Like, I'm not going to go to my way now to try to track down, like, have 100% health and to have all the 20 coins and get the 5 flowers. It just, And I was playing the emulator version.
Okay.
Which soon I won't be using the emulator.
Yay.
Yay. But if you just hit start or whatever, I think select, it'll bring up like what you've collected so far. So that's handy.
Okay.
And when you collect the last red coin, it does make a different sound. So
Gotcha.
if you listen for that and aren't watching TV or whatever, but I'm a TV watcher, so
Yep.
I would never ever hear it.
Okay, nice. So speaking of our yay, did you know that the reason that in Team America, World Police, they made Matt Damon be retarded and go, Matt Damon, is he was a full fleshed out character with actual lines of dialogue, but when they got the puppet, they thought he looked so retarded, they just made him a bumbling, one-lined idiot.
I did not.
Yeah, so apparently they were like, oh, we didn't really want to say anything bad about Matt Damon, just we thought the puppet looked so bad, we just made him like very gifted. So now, if you watch that movie again, every time he says Matt Damon, there was probably an actual line of dialogue that like furthered the plot, and that's why people react to him like, "Good point, Matt."
That's classic.
Yep, classic. So, and are you buying it? And then we're out of here. So, I stole this from maybe someone on like Reddit or something. I don't know where I found it. I don't have a source. I'm copywriting. I'm infringing on someone else's creative benefits. I'm a terrible person. I don't know why I'm stalling. I've been playing Yoshi's Island port for the Game Boy Advanced recently and aiming for 100%. And I've garnered about 400 plus Yoshis. One of the bonus games refers to lives as Yoshis. I've heard of them in terms guys or man used synonymously with lives, so it isn't terribly strange. But thinking about it, other games don't refer to multiple Marios or Sonics. There's only one Mario or only one Sonic. Yoshi typically refers to the species. While the theory of multiple lives equals multiple characters /